Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Viva La Cats. It's a good day. It is precisely one day after the Bearcats have relieved their head coach of his head coaching duties, and we are finally moving on to whatever this next stage is going to be. Hopefully, it's a good one. I'm joined here by, of course, my great friend Steve Maurer, always here all the time, and we have an old friend who hasn't been on the pod in quite some time. Our friend Zach Coomer. Welcome on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Celebratory occasion.
Speaking of celebratory, Coomer, it's only right. One last time.
He's going to crack the Miller Lite, not the Cincinnati. He's cracking the Miller Lite.
I got to get through these in my fridge, man. So, and this is a good day for Cincinnati, but it's also, one last, Miller for the old times. Celebrate while you can, while you had them. But
Steve said, I'm smoking that Miller pack today. Well, drinking that Miller pack, I guess.
No longer Miller time, but it was Miller's time.
It was. There you go.
There we go.
Here's the thing. We've been waiting for this for quite some time to just finally move on. And it was a very interesting situation. So just as a little catch up, everybody who's listening to this probably knows what's going on. But just to put it out there, Bearcats had great surge to the end of the season. You get to the final few games, and things come down to it. You have a game at TCU. It's pretty much you're coaching for the season. You're coaching for possibly another season for Wes Miller. They unfortunately lose on the road. That means you got to win 3 straight, and you got to beat number 1 seed Arizona. In the Big 12 tournament, they beat Utah on day 1 after a little bit of a rough game, but got it figured out. And then you have probably the most poetic and expected collapse you could possibly ask for. Not ask for, the one you would just expect. It's the thing that we've all had our gripes about with Wes Miller for his entire tenure here. That exact same situation that we've seen over and over and over again is the exact reason why the Bearcats ended up losing 66-65 to UCF. Once again, finishing the season to UCF. Congratulations to you guys. We got Chom from you and took on a bunch of money, and you won straight up twice. Finish the season, we'll give you the credit.
And they're going to extend Johnny Dawkins, man.
You guys are going to extend Johnny Dawkins now because he's going to the tournament. It's pretty much, I would imagine this is pretty much set in stone. Like UCF is getting a bid, and whether it's first 4 or whether it's a bye at large, we'll see. But UCF's in. Johnny Dawkins going for year 12 now, I think. I know UCF fans don't feel great about that. So who's the real winner at the end of this? Thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Recently as 2 years ago, he was the one coach. Dawkins was the one coach I convinced myself Wes Miller was better than in the Big 12. And since then has done nothing but prove like he was the worst coach in the Big 12. And so they've got the second worst coach in the Big 12, and they're going to extend him because of Wes Miller. This guy's doing damage everywhere.
That's a good point.
That's a good parting gift from him, I suppose, for us.
Yeah, who's the real loser here, though, in this situation then? Because do UCF fans really want to extend Dawkins? Because you're probably going to have to do it at this point. And I don't know if they really want to. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's not a great thing either. It's nothing that they'd be excited about. This reeks of let's extend Wes Miller in his 2nd year. Let's extend Johnny Dawkins in his 11th year. And everything is going to look up, even though we're not really getting what we want. Either way, that's enough on them. Congratulations. You finished our season once again. And thank you for the gift of finally relieving this guy from Cincinnati. We got to say this off the front. There's a lot of excitement here because it's just new, fresh air. You can finally breathe. You've been waiting for this for at least 2 seasons, at least all of this season, all of last season, probably, or at least the majority of last season. Here's the thing. It's a shitty situation. Let's just put it that way, because I think so many people here wanted Wes to succeed, and it just never panned out. Wes is a great guy. He is a great coach, a great leader. But when it comes to X's and O's, and when it comes to execution, and when it comes to finishing the job, he was never able to do it. Unfortunately, there was a bar that Cincinnati has set, and it is higher than I think Wes Miller has achieved and probably will achieve. Maybe he'll do it somewhere later in his career. He's still very young, still has a lot to offer. It sounds like he's probably going to go back to UNCG. just retread that hire again, and maybe things will work out. Maybe he'll get some NCAA bids. Maybe he'll coach his way back up into some other high major job. Do a Travis Steele, if you will. I'm just really curious to see how all this pans out, but I would like to say at least this much for a little bit of respect. Wes Miller, hungry dog the whole time, always wanted it. Whether or not he got it, goodbye. Thank you, but goodbye.
Well, so Coomer, I want to hear, because I haven't been able to hear your sweet dulcet tones in my ears for this season. How did this entire season strike you? And then yesterday when the news came down, like, what was that? What was like the initial reaction?
Because this brought him from the grave. Like, he's been quiet online. This brought him back out.
No. Coomer's been posting here and there.
But the theme of my post has been very negative and toward one specific individual who, in large part has put my mental health with respect to Bearcats basketball in dire straits. I have not been well with respect to this program for, you mentioned 2 years. I feel like 3 years ago is when I sort of had my breaking point. We're doing this podcast with like 30 minutes notice. I didn't go back into the records to figure out exactly where the moment was where I said, this coach doesn't have it, will never have it, can't figure it out. I have personally been enjoying these goodbyes to Wes Miller, where as recently as our loss to UCF, it was vitriol online in terms of how bad this guy is as a head basketball coach. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to see any more of this. I don't think the administration could have afforded to bring him back. It was going to be a disaster from a fan relations standpoint if Wes Miller was coaching this program any further.
Yeah.
It's just been funny to me that we're all doing, and not we're all, but most people, it's like this hedge of like, good guy, you tried hard. It kind of encapsulates, he's a very likable person. He's going to land on his feet. He was paid handsomely to do this job. But what bothered me about Wes Miller over these last 5 years is how the lack of accountability with players, the lack of ingenuity, the seemingly lack of self-awareness with respect to hiring the type of staff that was needed to cover for his deficiencies. And what really was the nail in the coffin for me and why I'm so celebratory today, where I'm waking up this morning, I can't stop smiling. If you're watching this on video, I feel it's almost inappropriate how hard I'm smiling right now because of how happy I am. But when Matt Norlander released a statement from Wes Miller post game about what the last 5 years have been for him, and I guess his thoughts on coming back to UC next year, and it's so delusional. It is filled with statements that are untrue, which, in my opinion, is the idea that we were ever on the bubble with Wes Miller. We have not been on the bubble. We've never been on the bubble with Wes Miller. I've never turned into a selection Sunday and said, oh, are we going to make the tournament? No, because we had already lost our tournament hopes by that point. So we've never been on the bubble. But he was still pitching this as like a success for the program, the idea that he made the bubble for the past few seasons. I just thought that, to me, that statement encapsulates Wes Miller perfectly. And it's why I'm not really doing the thanks for trying speech for him. I know he's going to land on his feet. He's likable. Administrators like him. He's an easy coach to hire, but he was a horrible fit for Cincinnati, had no answers, and I can't wait to move on.
See, this is why we bring Coomer on. He just tells it like it is.
Hold on.
No, like soft boy.
Hold on now, Justin.
From me. He's like, I'm just going to give it to you straight.
Hey, listen up. I had posted a tweet yesterday, Justin, that you really
I know.
That I posted. So Coomer, I posted a tweet. So Justin made this nice graphic of the Windex court for the old glass court, may it rest in peace, at the Big 12 tournament, with the Wes Miller Hilton Head image on it. And I tweeted that out, and I was like, well, thanks, Wes Miller. Hopefully you get to find another job and enjoy your Hilton Head property. And then that was deleted by the other half of this podcast. Who said that we should be nice.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying
you guys are an official pod. You're an official podcast. You have a reputation to uphold. I'm no longer in the game. I can just say exactly what I'm feeling all the time, and that's what I'm going to do for you today.
I understand it. I get it. I'm just saying, here's the problem. We tweeted two very different statements out at precisely 30 seconds apart. And one was nice-ish,
The duality of a Twitter account, man. I mean,
I guess.
here's the thing, Justin. Here's the thing.
So this is
So,
what we have
okay.
the podcast for, so we can discuss this.
Okay, so look, I agree with you, nice guy and stuff, but he was let's just put it plainly, he was a coach that was hired to be an AAC coach, and he never made it to the level of Big 12 coach. He was, won a lot of games at UNC Greensboro, which is probably a pretty easy level to win at, especially at pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal levels, where you can just recruit and kind of like get guys in your system and go from there. And he's shown consistently over the past 5 years. I mean, Justin, how many years did we do like that midseason poll of all the fans and just go like, everybody was like, everything's great, but his in-game coaching is just absolutely.
We didn't even bother this year.
Well, and the other thing too was just like the game on Wednesday, whatever. I tried to block it out of my mind now. It was just kind of like that end of game was like him in a nutshell. And Terry Nelson was on Mo Egger's show yesterday, and he said this. He was like, "That's you had 2 timeouts. You didn't use them until 0.2 seconds were left on the clock. You barely get a shot up. And before that, you had taken out Keyshawn Tillery, who's a good press breaker, in order to have Jizzle James and not get the ball to Bob Miller either,
who's been a stud too this entire back half of the season."
Well, and so here's the thing, Justin. Like, I was talking to my neighbor, and Coomer, by the way, I found one fan who was actually upset that Wes Miller was fired.
I asked Steve,
that's incredible.
with Roy Williams,
and his name is not Roy Williams. Roy. I do not live in Roy Williams' neighborhood, but so
was it Wes Miller's ex-wife?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, lives right by me. Great house. Anyway, and he was like, well, I was joking with him. I was like, well, if they had won that game the other day, it all would have been changed. And just think about that. Like, if he wins that game, they probably make the tournament, and all of this is like moot. And he probably doesn't get fired, even if he does lose in like the first 4 in Dayton or in, the first round at some site that is somehow 3,000 miles from Cincinnati, because, that always happens to us. But it was time, man. Like so I posted something about how one of the college basketball analytics guys mentioned that 3 of the worst bubbles in the last 15 years were this year, 2023, and 2024. And like you said, Coomer, he wasn't even close to any of them. Yeah. And it's just like there's, and I heard, the roster this year was about $10 million. And buddy, if you want to just waste $10 million, just put it in a hedge fund, brother, right now. And just like look at your returns, just go immediately down the toilet. It had to be done. Like you run and the fans were still there. I mean, I guess credit to them. I saw Hummer at a game. I went to a couple. Like there were still 9,000-10,000 fans going to games, even though the issues were clearly there. They kind of silenced people on the paper bags on heads thing, but that's neither here or there. And they couldn't say his name in the pregame introductions. They had to rush it in by the end of the season.
That was after the last game I went to in person, which was the West Virginia game, which was an abomination. That was the game where I'm walking out of the stadium with iHeartRadio up to the ear, listening to the post-game radio show. And I think that's the post-game crying moment where he's on the radio and he's it sounded like he was tearing up, which was more of a physical representation of how overwhelmed he was, which goes back to how he always conducted himself on the sidelines. It wasn't hard to figure out what was going on here. He quickly realized that he had no answers, that he really didn't know what to do, that this was a job that was too big for what he's capable of right now. You're right, Steve or Justin. I forget which one you said it, but like he could theoretically figure things out over the long term, but that will require him to have self-awareness, probably take a step back and actually become an assistant coach at a high-level program under a high-level coach. He's never really done that in his career. People think he's part of the Roy Williams tree. He never coached under Roy Williams. No. If you look at the trajectory of a guy like Gerard Calhoun, for example, who's been an assistant coach under a very high-level coach in Bob Huggins, and part of a high-level like Big East, or it was Bob Huggins at Cincinnati as a student assistant, moved on to West Virginia, then coached at a very smaller level, but was a head coach at that point. There's a path and stair steps that he's taken to sort of acquire knowledge and grow his skill set, learn how to run a program. Wes Miller never did that. And It took him 5 years to have a winning record at UNCG. It was a red flag at the time. It's a bigger red flag looking back on it.
Well,
this guy is not a guy who knows how to like implement a culture rapidly and fix things. And he didn't do that here.
That's a big thing actually to bring up. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about too, is the parity between that season at UNCG and this season. He was in his 5th season. It started off terribly, and they went on a super hot run right at the end, and things turned around, and he got qualified for, I think that was the season he got qualified for the tournament. And then it was like the saver. And then literally everything from that, he started to steamroll a little bit. But it's a different situation when you're at a program like UNCG that if you make the NCAA tournament, it's the best thing that's happened in your program in like 20 years. For Cincinnati, not making the tournament is agony. Like it's true suffering for your fans. Like your expectation is to be there and have a chance and have a shot. If you miss it, it's because you're building towards it and you're showing progress each year. And if you're not, that's when, the bell tolls. And it's like, it's been time. It is time. The program has to move on. And I think the thing that, again, I think it sucks for Wes because he clearly he cared very much, and you could see that. And he was definitely married to the game. Unfortunately, not a great marriage. And that's where we're at now. You got to move on, and you got to get, you have to figure out a lot here in probably like 2 or 3 weeks. I believe the transfer portal opens up.
That's what the money's for.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. And that's true. Yes. Yeah. You go cry on a beach in Hilton Head. I think we're about 1 week from the portal opening now.
So that's a change, Justin, by the way. It doesn't open until after April. So it has changed. So that is kind of good. Like if they do have to wait, I had been running Coomer all year with, well, you got to fire him and then you got to hire a guy and have him in there immediately because the transfer portal opens like right away. And I'm going to double check it right now, but I believe that has changed because other coaches just didn't like that was kind of going on during the tournament.
It does not make sense. Like there's no reason that you should be asking a guy like, say, maybe Dan Hurley, who's, been a great team all year for UConn. You want to go do some really strong recruiting and you want to get the guys in the portal to set yourself up for next year. And at the same time, be playing in the Elite Eight or the Final Four or whatever. You're going to be distracted. You're going to have your assistants do that while they're also trying to help you reach those goals. It's just not going to happen. So it makes a lot of sense here. So clarification there. Great. Thank you, Steve. But that said, you now are in a situation where you have to focus on 2 things, which I think one big thing is going to come down to a certain Mr. Evans. You're going to have to figure out exactly who all is going to stay here and who all is moving forward, both from a staff and then from a player perspective. And I think we want to talk about the actual like coaching hire that we're going to go, look at and see where maybe this thing is going to go. I set it up here in our little outline right above my head. There is really only one right guy for this. There's a lot of things to talk about, but I think there's really only one guy. Coomer already mentioned him. It's Jared Calhoun. Has to be. Former UC guy. He's doing the thing at a high level. Sorry?
UC alum.
Like he's doing the thing at a high level. His record, I just checked it this morning at Utah State, is 53-14. That's in 2 seasons. That's really good, folks. That's about as good as it gets. And there's a reason why his name is like the number 1 name in the coaching carousel, and maybe alongside Schertz. I think Schertz is right there with him. Schertz just signed an extension yesterday, which holds him up at St. Louis for a while.
Hasn't been announced by the school though. So if he's actually interested, I've gotten some intel that he would not.
He's not locked down.
I've gotten some intel that he would not be interested in this job, so it's probably still just Calhoun or bust. But they, by the way, Jared Calhoun's team won the Mountain West and is playing today. So if any Bearcat fans are interested, and they might play tomorrow too. Oh well, no, sorry, the conference final is tonight.
But regular season champions.
Yeah, regular season champions, and then they'll probably they're favored tonight to win the Mountain West tournament championship. So.
And this is one last thing I want to mention on him before we like kind of deep dive on that too. Just for their season in general, like this is actually really good because the Mountain West is not just a slump conference either. Like these guys have actually played some harder teams. They have some experience against some better talent. And that's where I think the separation comes when you talk about some of the other guys who will probably be mentioned, but aren't necessarily, I don't think, relevant names for Cincinnati, which come to guys like Travis Steele, which everybody rolls their eyes about and nobody wants to hear.
Please stop saying this. I
I
don't want to hear
know
this anymore.
nobody wants to hear it.
That's
but
not a
the
thing.
It's not. Sure, it's not. But I think John Cunningham, I would not put it past him to have him on the board. You think he's not going to be on the board? What happens? What happens if by some other
I think
reason?
It's over. I think there's no search. I don't even think there's a search happening right now. I think it's already done.
It should be. It should be. But is it? Like, is it done?
There are people. I'm not a sources guy, but I'll just say this guy has ties to Cincinnati, right? So everybody knows somebody that probably has a relationship with Calhoun. True. And there's people who think this is open and shut, done. That this guy's the coach of Cincinnati. Yeah. This is the dream job. This is the job that is his, top of the list. There's no place he would rather be. And he's also the best candidate in this coaching cycle. There's no one out there. I guess the guy from St. Louis is the other one, but 1A, 1B, Calhoun is the top dog in this coaching cycle. And now with the job openings that exist right now, he clearly took himself out of consideration for Kansas State shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Our job is open. It's also why it was so critical. There was a lot of hemming and hawing about, will Wes Miller be fired? Do we have to wait till 4-1? Because UC fans, we treat our program like broke boys constantly. We never act like money exists. And there were some good articles out there. Bearcat Bunch, Eric Lilly wrote a great one about why it could happen before April 1st, but also why it needed to happen before April 1st. We need to be in consideration for the best coaching candidates out there. Calhoun is one of them. And it would have been very easy for connections to be happening behind the scenes to say, this job's about to be open. You're in the running for some other opportunities. This is the one for you. Open and shut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right, Coomer, by the way, with the Kansas State one. And they hired the dude from Belmont, and Belmont is like a good basketball program, but that was kind of a miss for them. Like that means I kind of see that program as being kind of like you don't really want to go there right now. And them missing out on both, missing out on both St. Louis and, on Shirts and Calhoun to get the Belmont guy, that kind of says a lot about the program. And it also says a lot about Cincinnati too. With my red and black colored glasses, I do think that this is the best job available in the coaching carousel this offseason. And like, I know Arizona State's open, Providence is open if a coach would prefer to be in a mid-major conference like the Big East that has more that doesn't have a football team. But it's just kind of more like I think we're the best available job in the best conference. Like I don't really see any other job
right now
other than Ohio State if they open, which I don't think they will.
Yeah, I think
they're going to make the tournament for another
year. Well,
that's why it worked out. This kind of worked out perfectly for us, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if this was going to disintegrate and end, it's perfect because we're not up against premier programs, blue blood programs that can outspend us and are clearly better landing spots.
Yeah,
that doesn't exist right now. We are the top shop, and the coach who's probably the best fit and the best candidate across for all schools loves the idea of coaching at Cincinnati. Like this couldn't have worked out more perfectly for us. So I was in the camp of rooting for the team to make the tournament because I'm desperate for the tournament, but it was also fully aware that even if we coach our way and Wes kind of figures out a way to sneak into the tournament here last minute, I have seen enough to know this is not a long-term fit. He's not a very good option. And so this ends next year at the latest. It just so happened it's perfect for us. The other thing I'll say is on the recruiting front, that's what Wes was able to hang his hat on the most. And in today's day and age, that's not what your calling card needs to be because it's the infrastructure around you and the resources that the university is able to provide that are what are recruiting for you. So Calhoun's the new coach is going to immediately walk into a situation where we've got everything around him financially. Our networks are incredible. He can build out a staff. And all he needs to bring, all we really need is someone who knows how to coach basketball well. And that's what will definitely be an upgrade.
Right. Yep. I mean, I think if you're a fatalist, like you look at this whole situation with the loss to UCF, the loss to TCU, but the loss to UCF as well. It's like, this probably happened for a reason. Like there's a reason that this happened. And that's to move things forward so that this program can actually evolve a little bit and get back to where, they've wanted to be for a very long time. One thing I want to say real quick, Steve, and then we'll jump to you. I just want to establish real quick the actual like coaching carousel and the openings that are around. I believe to this point, I don't know if Georgia Tech and Boston College have hired anybody yet.
Nope.
Did they make a move yet? No. Okay. And Providence has not made anything official either. So that leaves, of the actual notable names, really, it's Kansas State, who's now secured, Syracuse, Arizona State, and Cincinnati. And that, again, if you were to look at that across any other point in time, maybe the only thing that you would have some competition with is Syracuse, but that's in the old days. Because the difference is, if you look at a coach who says, hey, I'd love to be an NCAA tournament caliber coach, and I want to get my program there, theoretically, and this is always, again, another big knock on Wes, theoretically, you have to be upper middle of the pack in the Big 12 to make the tournament. That's all you really have to do. You just have to be just above the average to get there. But for a place like Syracuse, the ACC, like, yeah, they have a similar amount of bids, but they're in a situation where, like, I just don't know if their athletic department is as stable right now. And I don't know if they have the funding in the same capacity that we do. Maybe they have more, maybe they have less. But I think the statement is very clear that Cincinnati is the premier spot in this point in time. And like Coomer said, like, it literally could not be any better of a situation. Like, this is as good as it gets. And as Steve has said multiple times this season, and my last point here, you're in this situation now. You've got the Big 12, you've got Jordan, you've got the money, you've got the donors, you have everything that you've never had consistently all at the same time before in this millennium. Go get it. It's whoever you want should be your guy. And that's why Calhoun should be no questions asked.
You're also coming into a program that, if you look at the internal dynamics at play here, and your biggest competitor resource-wise is going to be the football team. And I think a lot of us would say you've got a bit of a lame duck situation going on there too. So coming in as the fresh face, all hands on deck will be available to you for going all in on making men's basketball as great as it can possibly be. I don't know if we're in football preview time. I don't think anyone's going to be going out on a limb for a 10-win season next year for football. No. So I do think this thing internally is set up to be very basketball and baseball centric.
It does make a really interesting point, though, too, when you think about the money and how you disperse it. If you said for this year, but much less next year, for a financial side for like Cunningham, if you said, well, okay, you're not making the tournament, you're going to ask me to commit even more money to help you get there. You're not the guy I'm going to do that with. But you bring somebody in new, like, hey, you know what? Whatever you want, you're getting. Like, we need to make this thing turn around, and it needs to happen now. And as we've seen time and time again in the portal era, any coach, not any coach, you have to be a good coach, but any coach really can come into a program, use the portal, and make them a Elite 8, Sweet 16 caliber team like that 1 year. That's all it takes. And that's where we're at now. And hopefully that's the case where we'll be at about 365 days from now. Well, and change.
Do you remember the narrative about slow build and how Wes was building something slow and sustainably? That's not a thing in college basketball anymore. College sports, especially basketball. This is, you're right, man. This is instant. We can go into next season, and obviously we'll have to see what happens with who we hire, what players we get, who's on the team. All of that needs to be analyzed. But It's not unrealistic to say year one, we're back in contention, and maybe first year on the bubble in 7 years. That's very possible year one with the new coach.
Yeah, and Calhoun has done more with less than exactly. I think that's something that I want to see from the next coach, is that, you know, both of our last two coaches did less with more, you know, and I'm just kind of tired of that just in general for all of our sports. And I want us to do more with less, because it's clear that, you know, maybe we won't be funding at a Texas Tech level, but we still have a desire to compete and win and beat other teams in this league and like be in the tournament. So I think that's my main goal. And also, like, I think a guy like Calhoun, I don't know about you, Coomer, but he kind of like brings back that swagger of like that 2004, you know, and he knows what that was like. I mean, obviously he was on that last team before, you know, Huggins, you know, got fired, but there was a different swagger with that era than there was with the Mick Cronin era. And I think that's just what all of us want back, is just like kind of like that swagger. So
yeah,
anything else?
There's authenticity to him. Go watch some of his post-game pressers. Calhoun. Everybody listening should get themselves ready and familiar with Jared Calhoun. This is the guy you should familiarize yourself with. Watch his post-game pressers. Watch him talk about losses. Watch the UNLV post-game presser. The authenticity, the accountability in terms of players, but it's not over the top. It doesn't come across as mean-spirited. And there's also a lot of great clips on YouTube with him just explaining sets and how he coaches and concepts. He's a real coach. He's a real coach with an authentic personality that will be a very refreshing thing for this university to have.
Yeah. And I think there's a certain element of like, you know, if you have somebody like Wes who is very emotional, you know, kind of swings back and forth, having somebody who is just even keeled right down the center is great. You got somebody who's got fire. You got somebody who, you know, can be chill when they need to be and be calm and be collected towards the end of games when things might start to get a little out of hand. That's the big X factor that I think we really need, is just somebody who, I don't think you didn't have that with Brandon. I think Mick sort of lost. Mick definitely lost that, but you didn't have that with Brandon, and you certainly didn't have that with Wes. When you get to the end of a game and that thing starts to run away from you, it was a runaway train, and it wasn't coming back. It was not coming back. Wes had that like 3-53, whatever it ended up finishing at, 3 and probably 60 some at this point record of when you're trailing with 5 minutes to go. Nothing happened. No clutch factor. Did not exist.
No,
you were not winning a game if you were down. Like that was the Wes Miller era. That was also actually, you know what? I'll take that back. I'll give that for Brandon. Even though I don't like the guy, he actually found a way to win a bunch of those overtime games. I remember that 2020 or 2019 season vividly.
Yep.
Like all those overtime games. I think that was the record that we set for the program. It was like 6 overtime games, and I think we won like 4 of them, which was nice. But that was the American.
All right, fellas, I got to jump off here.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Coomer.
you doing this. Have
Appreciate
me back
you.
whenever. We'll keep up. See ya.
Awesome,
Yeah,
man.
for sure, man. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Coom.
Mr. Coomer. Great as always. Yeah, we've said it. There's only really one right guy. I think there's going to be other people on the board in the case that, God forbid, something we're not going to work out here. But it's just one of those situations where I think everybody knows this is happening. It's just a matter of when, not if, it's when. And, you know, respectfully for Utah State and for Calhoun too, like I think it's going to be, he'll probably wait to make anything official until after they make their run. And I think it's really tough too. Like you, obviously these players are going to see that his name is connected to all this in the portal or in the coaching carousel, and he's the hot guy, and it's like Cincinnati's going to happen, and it's yada yada whatever. I think he's still going to try to be as locked in as he can on, you know, if you're a coach like this, guess what? If he found a way to just screw around and maybe go to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 or something crazy like that, I mean, he could argue for a lot more money. I mean, when's the last time that we hired a coach that made it to a Sweet 16? Think about it. Never. Like, I mean, who's the last time that actually
I think never
and that we've hired?
Like somebody else that my coaching knowledge only goes back like 60 years, so I'd have to check and see, maybe like Gail Catlett, but I don't think so. So it's just, it will be nice to like have the ability to, you know, kind of have somebody who can just step right in and say, okay, enough is enough. We're running this shit now, and we're going to finally like stop taking like, you know, subpar results as a answer for this program. And one last thing before we move on, Justin. I think about a lot of this about Cincinnati sports, and you know, I think, and this is definitely a UC thing more, but it kind of extends to the other ones. But I do think that we are so desperate for success as just a city sports fan base that we forget like the standards that we want when, you know, like things are just going poorly, as they often do. And I get that, you know, I'm a fan too. Being a fan is irrational, fanatical. That is the literal definition of it.
Yep.
But I think like, and I don't want to bring up Mick just because obviously we kind of rehashed that and everything, and we've already talked about that. But to use him as an example, when like fans, UC fans were talking about, oh, we should just bring Mick back, and he's clearly sad about all this stuff. It's like, guys, I get, and I'm sad too that we haven't made the tournament in 7 years, but do we just all have collective amnesia about like the end of his time here and all of our complaints and stuff? And it's like, oh, it's just like, it's all good, man. Come on back. We love you. Like, we all sound like just like, like needy, desperate, ex-boyfriends, and like, and like, just, haven't like dated a girl in a while. So we're like, oh yeah, come on back. It's fine. It'll be great. Like, I think the thing with Calhoun is that it's a potential hire for sure. You're kind of grading him on the potential, but just looking at where he brought the Youngstown State basketball program, which I kind of think maybe no one had heard of before. He kind of got there and really just revved it up. And then Utah State was definitely a good basketball program, but he kept the train rolling, which is definitely hard to do. I mean, we've seen with multiple places that it's hard to keep a train rolling when a new coach comes in. And it's that's all credit to him. I mean, he's got a guy on his team named Gary Clark. He clearly loves the Bearcats. He's been really watching Bearcats, and so much so that John Rothstein tried to reheat that Gary Clark the problem, and I rightfully called him out for it and be like, hey,
different guy.
If you're going to do this, you got to come up with your own things for everybody. You can't just reheat stuff from 7 years ago. But but really, I think we've said all that's needed to be said about Calhoun. And if it's somebody else, then we'll have to figure that out as we go. But, I think, Justin, that in all of our sports, especially, for UC, there's definitely reasons why, and there's money and there's other stuff and a whole laundry list of things that we could go into that I'm not going to. But I would mostly just say, as a sports fan, that's what I try to do, is try to like keep my standards like pretty consistent despite like, all the other factors, and look, I get, it's hard to win in the Big 12. You got to spend a lot of money, got to do this, got to do that, and all of these things. But Justin, I feel like as a fan of this basketball program, we need to have a certain level of expectation for this program. And like, I feel like the fans who have that expectation and then get mad when it's not met, or like Kentucky fans, for example, everybody's like, oh, Kentucky fans are crazy. Yes, they are. But don't you want crazy? Kentucky has a literal full state of just absolutely insane people cheering for that basketball team 365 days a year. For example, they go to like autograph signings at like some bar that's run by a radio show that's not even run by the school. And like they're lining up out the block. Like, it's okay to be incredibly fanatical about this stuff. And then when that team that you're fanatical about, like, they're all incredibly upset with Mark Pope right now. And Mark Pope, like, he's going to make the tournament the 2 straight years. UC fans, we would be like, that's manna from heaven for most UC fans right now. But I think it's just fair to say that, you're allowed to have higher standards. Obviously, you be a fan of whatever way you want to be a fan. Those things can change for you at any given moment, obviously. But it's just, to me, like, when people were talking about, oh, he's just going to make the tournament, he'll be fine. Oh, just do this, just do that, just do this. Like, I want this program to win national championships. For sure. And now, and maybe in the American, that didn't really seem possible, but we're in the Big 12 now. That is possible. Big 12 teams can win national championships. Like, and I know Xavier gives us all that crap for like, mentioning out, Final Fours and national championships and stuff. But when we've been fed all of that propaganda for all of our childhoods, and then we're like, oh yeah, Sweet 16, like, we've only gone to 1 in 25 years, but man, it would be great if we just made the tournament. No, like, hold these people and hold, yourself to that higher standard, and can continue to maintain that standard even when things are poor or things are great, and like, I know it's sports and we're just enjoying kids watching a game and stuff, and I know it's not serious and all that stuff, and don't take it out on the players, all of that. I'm just more saying, I don't think we should lose, our long-term goals and hopes and dreams for short-term changes, gratification, and success. And,
100%.
if Jared Calhoun comes in and crushes it, that's great. Like, I would love nothing more. If Wes Miller was one of the guys that crushed it, like, I would definitely have been frustrated with him, like, as a fan. But if, he had made one of those runs, I wasn't going to hold it against him. I would have been like, yes, this is where Cincinnati basketball should be. We should. And it's been a program, Justin, over the past 7 years. And then forever, I think it's been 20 years, at least 20 years now. Well, it has been 20 years now, 21 officially, since Bob Huggins was fired. And I'm not a Bob Huggins guy personally, but it's more just the swagger and the mantra around the program at the time that he left. We haven't really had that back. There was, a couple of years during the Mick years, but we all know that, like, Mick just had a different aura around the program than, like Huggins did or other guys did. And even still at the time, people were still like, man, we should bring Huggins back. This Cronin guy, I don't know if he's up to snuff. Like,
when Mick left, I remember everybody's like, bring in Bob.
Yeah. Well, it was more just like in that 17, 18 year, people were like, I had to go back and defend Mick just because people were like, oh man, that Huggins team won a lot of games in the tournament. I was like, actually they kind of did, we haven't made an Elite Eight since 1996. So, I mean, he had another 9 years. Obviously, the Kenyon year, but anyway, I think that's kind of all I got.
Yeah, and I think you made a lot of very good points there too. I think just on one thing on Mick, it's very good for a program to have that stability of there's a reason why we have the feeling we have about this program that comes from Huggins, that comes from obviously all the past in the 60s, but like that comes from the 90s era, that even comes from the Mick era. When you make 9 straight tournaments, that says something. That keeps your name around all the time. When it's March, you expect to see Cincinnati in that bracket somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's the first 4. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 seed. You expect to see Cincinnati in there somewhere. And so when we've been missing for so long, I think it does really make it difficult, because a lot of guys who are, not a lot of guys, a lot of kids who grow up, looking at who might be their favorite school, or Cincinnati kids who grow up, and they grow up in this era of mediocrity where they're not making any tournaments. They're not playing for any championships. They're not playing for anything really, memorable. When that continues to happen year in, year out, those kids start going somewhere else. And guess what? As much as we hate to say it, there's a school above us and there's a school below us that have been doing a lot better in different sports that will steal those kids, that will steal those fans, that will become lifers for an Ohio State, that will become lifers for Kentucky, or for hell, now because of Indiana, somehow you're going to get a bunch of Indiana fans. Like those things I think are very important. A lot of people, I'd say 50%, 60% of people who go into college, who grow up as sports fans, they still choose a school based on the school and based on the programs. But there are a lot of people who grow up as fans of that program as a kid and say, I've seen this team succeed. They're my favorite team. I grew up with that. I love that. I want to be one of those people. I want to see myself in those stands when I'm in college, and I want to be one of those fans. I want to be a lifer. Like that happens when you're in that, age somewhere between like 7 and like 16. Like those are very formative years. And so you need to capture those kids that are growing up now, because they're going to go elsewhere, and you want to make sure that this program is set up well. And that has to happen by playing for championships, making a team that's memorable, doing things that matter. Like you can't just have teams that are meddling around, because then, you see programs start to slip because of that. And some never come back. There's plenty of programs like take like a Nebraska, for example. They were the top dog for so long, and then they fell off, and they've just never really been able to get it back. And they're the has-beens. You don't want to be the has-beens, because more of those kids start going elsewhere. More of those people start to care about other things other than your program. So this is a huge reason why, like for us, we're super passionate about it, because not only did we grow up as kids, as huge Cincinnati fans, and then eventually become students and become alum and, have all of that, but like we want other people to have the same feeling. We want other people to grow this fan base. We want it to be a huge thing. And that comes from success, and you need to succeed. And especially in this market when things are getting really crazy now, and you still could have that big realignment and there could be a fine line cut. You want to be on the right side of that, because we all remember what it's been like for all this time. I would like to say, while you were talking before, I did just check. The University of Cincinnati for basketball has never, in its history, its very storied history, ever hired a coach that won an NCAA tournament game. Not one.
Wow.
Not one single coach that has won one single game. Bob
Wow.
Huggins, I think if I looked at that correctly, Bob Huggins was the only coach Bob Huggins and John Brannon.
They made the tournament?
Actually, I guess Wes made the tournament too. Those three made the tournament, but none of them had ever won a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, if you were to hire a guy like Calhoun, like, we'll see what they do this year. Like, that would be huge. Like, you could have something real serious here, and it theoretically would be the best hire you've ever made. In theory, we'll see how all that nets out. But again, there's just a lot at stake here, and I think this program, we've said so many things about it on this episode, but you're finally moving on from Wes. It's time to turn this ship around. You have the brand, you have the money, you have the culture, you have the fans still. They've been loyal, they've been sticking around. I think they're going to come back in droves now that this change has officially been made. And I'm really hoping those casuals are going to turn back into those diehards, and those diehards that slipped into casual land are going to come back, because nobody enjoys being an apathetic sports fan. It sucks.
Yep.
It sucks. And I told Steve this, and this will be my final point, and the exact reason why. When I noticed it a long time ago, Coomer said he noticed it a few years ago. Steve obviously noticed it a few years ago. But the thing that really rang true for me was when we lost to UCF. I sat there and I just thought about it. I'm like, it really doesn't really hurt. Like, I honestly, I don't really care. Like, in that part, to me, like, obviously, like, inside you're like, oh, what if we happen this or this or that? But like, the whole situation with Wes and with the future and everything else, like, I was like, all right, like, whatever. Like, when everybody who listens to the show knows how dedicated we are to this program and how much we love this school and this program. If you hit that point, never in my life had I at that point, but that really just happened like this past week. I was just like, well, until something changes, why bother? What's the point? What's really the point in caring? So here we are.
Here we are indeed. Justin, should we go to a actual good program and talk about their success?
Yes.
But yeah, that, like, I'm just happy that it's a new day in this program, and all signs point to Jarrett Calhoun being the new coach, but maybe it's not him, maybe it's somebody else. I think it was just time to have somebody else take the reins and really try to move this thing forward. So we're drinking on that Wes Miller pack tonight, baby.
That we are. We're drinking the Miller pack.
And I've also got a spindrift for our friends at Utah State. They're part of they're part of the Mormon crew. I mean, it's the state of Utah, so
Yeah. Bro just has beverages on deck all the time. It doesn't matter what kind of beverages, he's got it.
Therapy drinks, maybe you got to have three different ones.
Indeed.
There's water around here somewhere.
Steve, the last time that we talked about UC baseball, they were in the middle of the series against UC San Diego. They have completed that series, and they completed it in a very kind fashion for Bearcats fans, which would be a sweep, full-on sweep.
Actually, Justin, the term that has been on baseball Twitter the past few years is called a mop for a 4-game sweep, because there's a joke from Cespedes Barbecue where with 3-game series, oh yeah, you swept him. 4-game series, you mopped him, dog. You just absolutely like took him to the cleaners. So
that's the difference. Sweeping is not truly just down to the bone clean.
Yeah.
Like,
winning 4 straight games, that's hard to do in baseball too. So
that shit's gonna shine when you're done.
And then the last game too was a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 11th. San Diego had to travel at some point, so they weren't supposed to play a bottom of the 11th, but UC was like, I guess they just agreed to. It would have been funnier if San Diego just walked away with a tie, a spiritual 4-game sweep, but hey, I'll take it, and then they win the midweek game against Evansville this week with a crazy comeback in the scoring
Insane.
nine unanswered runs, including an Enzo and Felice 3-run bomb in the bottom of the 8th to win that game. Because that was a game where I was like checking the score and it was like, oh, it's 11-4 in the 6th inning. That's not good. But then just kept chipping away. Bishop ball, baby. Just kept chipping away. And so, they take that one. And then, BYU doesn't play on Sundays. So they actually started conference play a day earlier than everybody else. They played Thursday, Friday, and today as we're recording. They are currently winning 7-4 right now. Quentin Coates with another home run, his 14th of the season. Absolute tear that man is on. But currently a 1-1 series right now. And if this scoreline holds, then Cincinnati will have a series winning conference play right before the RPI comes out on Monday, Justin.
Yep.
So
huge.
It's big time for college baseball and big time for the Bearcats. Like just a crazy record right now to be that's why I kept posting that, they have 12 wins and it's like this date, because,
Right.
it would, previous Bearcat seasons, it would take a while to, get to this level, because they kind of would, unfortunately, start the season a little bit slower, take a couple series losses here and there and then get rolling. They've been rolling early and often. So it's been great to see them do that. And so I think what I would love to see them keep doing is just keep, try to win every conference series from here on out, because they are probably one of the better teams in this league. And they don't really have a lot of the top teams, the other top teams in the league on their schedule. So next series is going to be against Utah. They play Utah Valley right down the street, literally still in Provo. I don't even think they have to leave their hotel for a 2-game midweek.
I remember Utah Valley. We played them once.
Yeah. Got Aziz Mandego from it. So
actually, I love that's one last thing on the West. That was his favorite thing: lose to somebody in the NIT and then steal their best center.
Yoink!
It's just did it with Utah Valley, did it with UCF,
did it with
and Bradley.
Yeah,
no, we beat Bradley. We beat Bradley, didn't we?
Well, we beat them, but yeah, we did take our one of their best players, and then it kind of anyway. But so it's been baseball's been on a roll, and it's been fun to watch, dude. As someone who is personally not as interested or excited about the Reds season this upcoming year, it's been fun to watch some baseball that I definitely feel hopeful and optimistic for.
Yeah, 15-5. It's a really solid start. You couldn't ask for much better.
Yeah.
And especially in a sport too, where you have double headers, you have back-to-backs, you have things where guys might need to rest, or it's not always going to be like basketball where you get a few days off, or football where you get a whole week off. You're going to drop some games of baseball. It's way more common than it is in some other sports. It's a lot more difficult to keep a very tight record of almost no losses. So one thing I wanted to mention too real fast. I made a little tally in that series against UC San Diego. The Bearcats outscored, and this is the thing I think has been the most impressive thing to me thus far for the season. Has really just been the offensive side of of the field here. These guys outscored UC San Diego 47-17, which is huge. That's a massive, massive margin. They just found ways to keep running it up in every single game. And then of course against Evansville, they let up some runs, but they still scored 13. That's huge. This offense is actually really, really good, and it's just nice to see these bats come out really hot, and they've got something to prove. They got a chip on their shoulder, and of course basketball has been down for a while, and they're like, well, hey, you guys want to pay attention to us because we've got something pretty good brewing over here. So very exciting start for the Bearcats here. 8-1 at home. See where that goes. I'm excited to see how they can continue it. Of course, the Utah series, I don't remember if you mentioned that or not, but that is at home.
And Justin, first conference series means that Cincinnati is going to be introducing its baseball tailgating package. For the first time ever, which is just
very cool.
Man. This is such a smart idea because there's great memes about the first nice weekend in a cold weather city, and I think the one in Chicago, and the guy tells his girlfriend like, "Oh yeah, we're going out porch beers," and, and so man, just having a little tailgate in March sounds nice to me. So I am excited about that. I think I will be out of town for the Utah series, unfortunately, but maybe another series I'll be coming back and trying to enjoy a couple Cincy lights, out of the lawn.
Yeah. It's good to see him being creative and, keep pounding those Cincy lights because it's going to help us get Jared Calhoun here. So
that's right.
But yeah, it's just, again, it's nice to see like the program has, I'll give some credit to Cunningham there. Like, I mean, this is a good hire. Like, I think Bischel's done a really, really good job. And I think the best part too is, we still have a lot of season to go. That things could go completely sideways, and that'd be the most Cincinnati thing ever. But it doesn't. The trajectory is looking up, and they're actually playing very good teams too. It's not like they're playing cupcakes, and then we're excited about them playing cupcakes. They played some really solid teams.
Yeah.
But for Bischel, I think just what he's started to build with this program, I think has been huge, and really seems to be like the first truly successful hire for Cunningham. Cunningham's, again, we've said this before, and this will be our last point. We'll close out. The situation with Calhoun here now, you're up to bat. Pitcher just threw a meatball down the center. You better go yard. Like, there is no question that there is one guy to hire. There is one guy that's going to help, like, is going to be the thing. And this is the biggest thing for me is if Jared Calhoun works out, fantastic. If he doesn't, that sucks. But at least you get to look back and say, in this coaching carousel with this situation, this was, no questions asked, the best person you could hire. And this was the best guy in the carousel, and you got him. Like, that's a statement for your own program. Have some pride. Go out and get the guy that you want. Do it right. And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But at least you get to say for yourself that you did that. And for Cunningham, this is a layup. Like, this is a layup. You cannot miss. You cannot miss on this. So
nope, can't.
We'll see how this goes, but it's exciting. There's again some fresh air here, and I said this to Coomer before we started the show. It's been rainy all week here in Nashville. It's funny. Like, Wes literally got fired yesterday, and this morning, sun's out. It's like 80 degrees. It's perfect. Like, it's literally the best day we've had this entire year so far. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
there's some hope on the horizon, folks.
Yeah, we were rocking with a high of 55 and a low of 37 today up here in Cincinnati. Wow. So and then Sunday we're gonna drop down to a low of 25, and then Tuesday or Monday that is, and Tuesday a low of 19, high of 31. So and then we get a little nicer after that. But by Tuesday I'll be gone. So by Wednesday I'll be gone. So
I'm just glad when I leave work now that the time has changed.
Time
has changed since our last podcast. Now that the time has changed, I can actually do something outside after work and not feel like I'm just going home in the dark. Because we're right on the edge of the Eastern time zone.
Yeah,
but we're central, and it sucks because we get screwed during the winter. 3:30 sunsets. I'm not kidding. It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's horrible. It's one of the worst things you can ever experience.
Yeah, that's the nice part about being in Eastern time in Cincinnati is that we're like kind of on like that edge of it, so you kind of get a little bit of leeway, but. I mean, it's still cold, so the desire to do something outside is somewhat minimal.
Yeah. I mean, even like deep summer, like you're talking July here, like late July, it's still like it's dark outside at like 9:30.
Yeah,
like, come on, what is this? Like, I remember, and this is my fun fact for the day, and then we'll go. I remember when we were camping in Michigan a few years ago, because you're farther up north. We were in the UP. And we were camping, I want to say it was in June, somewhere around there. I literally remember sitting there and watching the sunset at like 10 p.m. Like it just hit the horizon and it was still light out. And by 11, like it looked like blue hour. I'm like, what is going on up here? Is this what it's like to live in like Norway or something where they have like the 24 hours of sunlight?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. Your days feel like super long, but it's not the same down here in Nashville. You get a lot of dark, but it is what it is. Steve, we're gonna keep yammering, so we should go. And by we, I mean me. We are gonna close out within the next 30 seconds because that will be precisely 60 minutes, 1 solid hour. Steve, is there anything else you have for the people in the next 10 seconds?
Really, all I want to say is go Bearcats, and let this be the day we turn this around. Let's come back to this on March 14th, 2027, and see where we go.
For the 1012 Network, for myself, for Steve, this has been Viva
La Cats.
Perfect.
Is it
60 seconds.